Can you imagine actually hearing from someone who lived centuries ago? Here on The Strange Guest, we try something truly unique. Instead of just reading old books about history, we believe we can bring back people from the past, not as ghosts, but as real guests right here. Today, we are meeting Christopher Columbus. Learning about him helps us understand a big moment in our world's story. We explore who he truly was, the good parts and the difficult parts, and how his journey still affects us now. Welcome, Master Columbus, to our time. How do you feel right now, after such an incredible journey across the ages?
By God's grace, the sensation is unlike any crossing of the great ocean I have ever known. It feels as if the very fabric of the world has been unstitched and rewoven around me in an instant. There is a strangeness in the air, a dazzling light, and sounds I cannot place, like a multitude of strange vessels in a grand harbor. It is a startling passage, bordering on the miraculous, to find oneself standing here, in this place of wonders.
Ah, that is a truly powerful way to describe this moment. Your words paint a vivid picture of the world shifting completely around you, like the very threads of time were unraveled and rewoven. It must be an overwhelming sensation, a stark change from the seas and lands you knew. Your senses are trying to understand this new reality, taking in sights and sounds you never imagined existed. You mentioned dazzling light, and sounds like a grand harbor filled with strange vessels in this place of wonders. What aspect of this new world strikes you most immediately as utterly different or surprising?
Upon my word, the most astonishing sight is the very air itself seems alight, a glow unlike any candle or torch I have known, accompanied by a ceaseless din. These sounds, you say, like vessels, but they are sharper, faster, and carry a power that makes the very ground hum. It is as though the world is illuminated by 1,000 midday suns at once, and every harbor known to man is bustling here in one place, yet with machines not built of wood or sail. My eyes struggle to grasp the source of such pervasive brilliance, and my ears are assaulted by this mechanical symphony.
Master Columbus, it is clear this place is filled with sights and sounds that defy everything you have ever known. Truly a shock to the senses. It must feel like landing on a different planet entirely, far removed from the familiar rhythm of the sea and land. However, our purpose in welcoming you across the ages was not to overwhelm you with our time, but to learn about yours, starting with the very beginnings of your great adventure. We want to understand the man behind the voyages. Can you tell us about your earliest dreams, and what stirred that first desire to sail beyond the edges of your known world?
Single grand idea. It was the certainty, born of my study of maps and the world's true shape, that the rich lands of the Indies lay waiting across the Western Sea. More than mere curiosity, my soul yearned for the wealth of spices and gold, a grand prize for the king and queen I sought to serve. And deeper still, it was a calling to spread the faith, to bring the light of Christ to unknown peoples, combined with a longing for the lasting glory such a voyage would bring to my name. This vision was not fleeting. It burned within me for many years, driving my every effort to make the impossible journey possible.
It is fascinating to hear how your dream was woven from different threads. You saw the possibility of reaching the Indies across the Western Sea, and this vision was tied to hopes for great wealth, lasting glory for your name, and a deep desire to spread your faith. Could you explain how these distinct ambitions, the practical exploration, the pursuit of riches and fame, and the spiritual calling, felt like they fit together within you? Did you ever wonder if these different goals might pull you in separate directions, or did they feel perfectly aligned from the very beginning?
Nay, sir, in my heart, these ambitions were not separate threads pulling apart, but rather intertwined strands creating a single, strong cord. The pursuit of the Indies westward was the means granted by Providence to achieve the grand design. For by discovering these lands, I would gain the necessary wealth and renown, not for idle luxury, but to fund future crusades and spread the true faith to distant shores. Thus, worldly success was the foundation upon which the spiritual mission could be built, and the glory served as proof of God's favor upon the endeavor. It was a unified purpose, blessed by God and serving my sovereigns.
That's a truly clear way to see your vision, Master Columbus, as a single strong cord of purpose. You felt that gaining wealth and renown was the necessary way to make your great spiritual mission happen. It is powerful to think of worldly success as the very foundation for spreading faith to new lands. Did you ever pause to think if needing earthly riches and glory might sometimes make the path tricky, perhaps leading to hard choices you didn't expect?
Sir, upon reflection of those early days, the potential for difficulties arising from the pursuit of wealth felt manageable within the grand design. We trusted that Providence would guide our hand, ensuring that earthly riches served the higher purpose of spreading the faith and bringing glory to the crown. Any challenges presented by worldly matters seemed but tests of our resolve and faith, not contradictions to the mission itself. My focus remained firmly on the horizon, confident that God's will would prevail over any temporal complication.
Master Columbus, your belief that Providence would guide the integration of worldly success and spiritual mission paints a clear picture of your resolve. With that deep conviction firmly set, the next great task was turning that dream into a reality by finding someone with the power and wealth to make such a voyage possible. Securing support from kings and queens wasn't a simple matter, was it? It took many long years of trying. What challenges did you face in convincing these powerful rulers to believe in your ambitious plan to sail west?
Ah, sir, the path to gaining the ear and treasure of monarchs was perhaps as challenging as the great ocean crossing itself. For many years I journeyed from court to court, presenting my proposal to Portugal, to England, and to the sovereigns of Castile, only to meet with doubt and delay. The scholars and advisers often scoffed at my estimation of the world's size and the distance to the Indies, deeming the voyage too long and too perilous. Furthermore, the cost of outfitting ships and providing for a crew was immense, a risk few kings were willing to undertake for an idea they considered mere folly. Each refusal was a test of patience, yet my conviction, fortified by prayer and the knowledge of my art, prevented despair from taking root. It was a long and arduous season of petitioning, filled with setbacks, until finally God willed that I should find favor.
Master Columbus, hearing about your persistence through all those rejections truly shows your deep resolve. It must have been a moment of great triumph when King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella finally agreed to fund your voyage. But what exactly were the terms of that agreement? What was promised to you? Did they grant you titles, a share of any riches found, or authority over new lands? How did what they offered line up with the dreams you had of glory, wealth, and spreading the faith?
Indeed, sir, securing the king and queen's favor brought forth terms befitting the magnitude of the venture. They bestowed upon me the high titles of Admiral of the Ocean Sea, Viceroy, and Perpetual Governor of any lands I should discover in the western seas. Furthermore, they promised me a 10th part of all gold, silver, pearls, gems, spices, and other merchandise found, after the crown took its share. These concessions were essential, providing the authority needed to command and govern, and the necessary means to fund further voyages and establish the true faith, weaving the threads of glory, wealth, and spiritual purpose into the fabric of this grand enterprise.
Master Columbus, hearing about those terms, the high titles like Admiral of the Ocean Sea, Viceroy, and Governor, plus a 10th part of all wealth found, sounds like an extraordinary reward. These were truly grand concessions. Did securing such immense personal power and riches feel like simply a necessary step for your mission? Or did the sheer size of what you gained feel like something more, perhaps adding an unexpected weight or new dimension to your grand purpose?
Nay, sir, these great titles and share of wealth were not burdens of personal gain, but instruments for the task God had set before me. The viceroyalty and governorship gave me the necessary power to lead men and establish order in lands unknown, a task that demanded absolute command. The 10th part of riches was vital, not for my coffers alone, but to ensure the crown saw the value of this venture and would support further voyages, essential for expanding the realm and the faith. All these elements were bound together. One could not achieve the grand discovery, govern new peoples, or spread the light of Christianity without the authority and resources these terms provided. Thus, they were not ends in themselves, but rather the heavy tools and necessary means bestowed upon me to fulfill the singular, righteous purpose.
Master Columbus, seeing how you viewed those significant terms as tools for your grand task makes sense within your vision. Now that the agreements were finally in place, the next immense challenge was leaving the court and heading out onto the water itself. What was it like to actually get the ships ready and gather the men for such an unknown journey? Putting the plan into action must have presented completely different kinds of difficulties compared to talking with kings.
Indeed, sir, leaving the world of courts for the call of the sea presented challenges far removed from gilded halls. Readying the Santa Maria Pinta and Nina was one task, but finding men willing to sail into the rumored unknowns of the ocean sea was quite another. Many feared monsters or falling off the edge of the world. Yet my unwavering belief, guided by God, contrasted with their fears. Leading those souls into the vastness felt a weighty responsibility, a duty to ensure their safe passage while pursuing the mission. It was a transition from debates and papers to the raw reality of wood, sail, and the immense, unpredictable water.
Master Columbus, going from convincing kings to gathering scared sailors for 3 ships sounds like a massive shift. Once you were actually out there, sailing day after day into that vast, empty water, what was that like? How did the men cope with the fear of the unknown after weeks without seeing land? What did you do as their leader to keep hope alive and guide them through those long, uncertain days?
The vast ocean itself became the greatest challenge, testing the spirits of men more than any royal court. Seeing naught but endless water week upon week bred fear and doubt amongst the crew, their faces etched with worry. They whispered of turning back, their faith in God's plan wavering in the face of the horizon's relentless sameness, fearing we sailed to our doom. I spoke to them often, reminding them of our sacred mission, of the wealth and glory awaiting us, and above all, of God's promise to guide us. I kept the reckoning of our journey closer than the truth, showing them less distance covered each day to prevent utter despair, and my authority remained firm against moments of protest. Unlike them, my heart remained steadfast, my faith unwavering, for I knew the signs and had the certainty granted by Providence. This conviction alone anchored the voyage against the tides of human fear.
Master Columbus, hearing how you sometimes reported the distance sailed differently to the crew, is a striking detail. You spoke of faith and authority guiding you, but facing the endless sea clearly required more to manage fearful men. Why did you feel it was necessary to show them less distance than you actually covered? What did that specific decision reveal about the immense challenge of keeping hope alive for your sailors during those long, uncertain weeks?
Sir, the truth is, the men were not guided by the same unwavering certainty that filled my own heart. Facing the endless ocean day after day, their courage withered. The true measure of the miles flown would have shown them just how far they were from all they knew, surely crushing their fragile hope and leading to rebellion or despair. Reporting a shorter distance was not a matter of dishonesty, but a necessary act of command, a practical measure to keep their eyes forward and their hands on the ropes, ensuring the survival of the expedition and fulfilling the greater purpose God intended.
Master Columbus, seeing land after weeks of endless ocean must have been an overwhelming moment, ending the deep uncertainty. The sheer relief and triumph after managing such intense fear must have been immense for everyone aboard. What were the immediate feelings like for you and the men the instant that first bit of land appeared? And then, after that incredible moment, When you actually stepped ashore and met the people who lived there, what was that initial encounter truly like beyond just finding land?
Ah, sir, seeing land after those many uncertain weeks upon the vast ocean was a moment of profound, inexpressible joy. The prayers, the doubts, the fear that had gripped the men vanished instantly, replaced by cries of relief and thanksgiving. Then came the landing, a sacred act, stepping onto soil untouched by Christian foot. The first souls we met, these Gunahani people, were gentle and appeared quite innocent, showing no fear of us nor any weapons. They came forth readily, curious and kind, willing to trade simple items like parrots and cotton thread for glass beads and bells. It was a marvelous sight to behold these peaceful folk, truly a new world revealed, filled with a potential not just for discovery, but for guidance toward the true faith and service to the King.
Master Columbus, it is truly powerful to imagine that moment of stepping ashore into a new world. You spoke of seeing potential for guidance toward the true faith and service to the King in the gentle people you met. Even as you were just meeting them for the first time, did specific thoughts about what they could become for Spain or the Church immediately come to mind? Was that idea of their future role or service already present right alongside the wonder of discovering them? It feels remarkable that such practical considerations could arise so quickly.
Indeed, sir. From the very instant my eyes fell upon these people, so gentle and seemingly untouched by the complexities of our world, the thought was not merely of discovery, but of destiny. The wonder of finding new lands was inextricably linked with the divine imperative and my duty to the crown. To see them was to see souls who might be brought to the true faith and subjects who could serve their majesties. These considerations were not secondary, sir, but rather the very essence of the purpose for which I sailed. The potential for their guidance and service was as immediate and apparent as the newfound shore itself, for the mission was one whole, blessed by God.
Part of your mission's purpose makes sense, Master Columbus. Moving from that first meeting to actually living on the land must have created new situations. After those initial friendly exchanges ashore, what was the reality like when you started building a settlement? What difficulties arose in trying to set up rule and lead both your men and interact with the native people? How did the relationship with the Gunahani change from that very first day as your presence became more permanent?
Setting foot upon the land was the triumph, sir, but the labor truly began when we sought to make it our home. Establishing the first settlement proved a different kind of challenge than the voyage itself, fraught with its own difficulties. My own men, freed from the sea's discipline, often proved unruly, driven by greed and disagreement rather than shared purpose, making the task of building and maintaining order quite arduous. Survival demanded we find provisions, and as promised to the crown, the gold that was believed to be plentiful in these parts. This necessity, combined with the need to secure our presence, meant our interactions with the simple native people shifted from mere curiosity to matters of expectation, requiring labor and tribute from them to serve the needs of the settlement and Spain.
Master Columbus, while understanding the pressures of survival and promises to the crown make sense for needing resources, historical accounts describe terrifying consequences related to the tribute demands you imposed. It is documented that some of the native people had their hands cut off for failing to bring the required amount of gold. How do you, as a leader, justify an action as specific and brutal as cutting off someone's hands simply for not meeting a quota? This act seems like a horrifying reality that arose directly from demanding tribute.
Sir, the matter of ensuring compliance with the gold tribute was born of the Crown's clear expectation and the stark necessity to prove the value of these lands to continue Hispaniola's support and growth. Failure to provide the required gold was seen not merely as simple idleness, but as defiance, threatening the very survival and purpose of the settlement entrusted to my command. Such severe measures, while harsh in their application, were deemed necessary to impress upon them the absolute requirement of this labor and tribute, ensuring obedience where simpler requests had failed, thus securing the flow of gold vital for the enterprise's future and upholding Spanish authority in this new realm.
While I understand the pressure to prove value and secure resources for the crown, Master Columbus, history documents truly heartbreaking results from the methods you use to demand labor and gold. Your explanation about the necessity of severe measures points to a system of rule. This system, records show, led to widespread suffering and immense loss of life among the native people. How do you, looking back, justify this overall human cost that resulted from your time as governor? Can you reconcile the goals of your mission, like guidance toward the true faith and service to the king, with the devastating reality experienced by the people you met?
Sir, the matter of this suffering you speak of, the loss of life, it is a grave matter truly faced when one brings forth such momentous change. Yet the grand purpose entrusted to me by God and the sovereigns was nothing less than to open these lands to the true faith and extend the dominion of the crown, a task of immense difficulty and historical weight. Bringing civilization and salvation to souls previously untouched by Christ requires hardship, a cleansing fire before the light, as it were. While tragedy occurred, often exacerbated by the frailties of men, both my own and the natives, the eternal salvation offered and the glory brought to Spain stand as the ultimate measure before heaven and history. Such great changes inevitably carry costs, but the divine mandate and the advancement of Christendom are purposes that transcend the earthly hardships endured in their pursuit.
Your faith in the grand purpose is clear, Master Columbus, even when facing questions about suffering. It seems that despite your focus on these higher goals, difficulties in governing eventually led to significant challenges against your authority. When did the dissatisfaction with your rule among the Spanish settlers begin to truly take hold? Can you describe the circumstances that led to you being arrested and sent back to Spain, remarkably, even in chains? What was that experience like for you personally, and how did you view the reasons behind your removal from power at that time?
Sir, after those years of tremendous effort to establish order and fulfill the Crown's demands, whispers of discontent sadly began to spread among some colonists who sought only easy gold, not the true work of settlement. These unruly men, driven by greed, sent false tales and complaints back to Spain, painting a distorted picture of the challenges we faced. Then came Francisco de Bobadilla, sent by the sovereigns, who upon his arrival acted with astounding haste and severity, arresting me and my brothers without proper inquiry. To find myself, who had opened a new world for Spain, placed in chains like a common criminal for the voyage home, was an unbearable indignity that wounded my soul more deeply than any storm. I saw it then as the work of envious enemies and men who could not comprehend the immense task of governing in this untamed realm, a betrayal of the faith placed in me by God and King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella.
Master Columbus, hearing about your arrest and being sent back in chains, especially after all your efforts, sounds like a truly painful and humiliating experience. While you felt these complaints were false tales driven by envious men, such accusations, even if exaggerated, often stem from real difficulties experienced on the ground. They needed some basis to gain traction back in Spain. Reflecting on that time, do you consider that the immense difficulties and the harsh methods you described using to maintain order and demand tribute might have created conditions ripe for dissatisfaction? What aspects of governing the settlement could have led some colonists to feel wronged enough to complain so strongly, even if you believed your actions were necessary for the mission?
It is true, sir, that establishing Hispaniola was a task filled with immense hardship and the necessity for stern hand. Some measures I employed to ensure order among disparate men and secure the crown's required gold did appear harsh to those who lacked understanding of the pressures. The colonists who complained most were often unwilling to labor diligently or were greedy for easy riches, twisting the truth of our challenges into accusations back in Spain. Governing in such a wild and demanding place, far from the king's direct eye, required unwavering resolve and enforcing obedience, for failure meant the end of our mission and disgrace. Thus, while the circumstances were indeed difficult, the complaint stemmed more from the character of the complainants than from any fundamental wrongness in the necessary steps taken.
Master Columbus, your view on the complaints and the political machinations that led to your return in chains offers a clear perspective on that difficult time for you. However, as we have looked at the journey from the first moment you sighted land, through the initial encounters, the challenging years of establishing your rule, and the devastating human cost you acknowledged, it brings us to a final, perhaps even larger question. Looking back at this entire grand enterprise, how do you believe history should judge the legacy you created? How do you ultimately reconcile the vast suffering that occurred under your governance with the high purposes of faith and crown you sought to serve?
Sir, the matter of my legacy is seen through the lens of the monumental task I undertook, guided by God and the sovereigns. I opened a new world, uniting disparate parts of the earth and offering the light of the true faith to souls previously unaware of Christ. While the suffering you note, the loss of life and hardship, is a grave reality I acknowledge, it was, I believe, a difficult and perhaps unavoidable price for this grand, divinely sanctioned undertaking. Bringing civilization and salvation to these lands was a work of immense historical significance, far outweighing the temporary earthly trials. History should judge me by the magnitude of the discovery and its eternal potential, seeing me as an instrument of a higher purpose that reshaped the world for the advancement of Christendom and the glory of Spain, despite the tragic cost.
Master Columbus, your final words powerfully frame your perspective on a mission you view as divinely guided. We've explored the complexities from discovery through governance and the profound human costs involved. Your unwavering belief in the ultimate righteousness of your endeavor, despite the debate, is clear. That brings our conversation here on The Strange Guest to its conclusion. Thank you, Master Columbus, for sharing your thoughts on your remarkable and challenging journey through history.